You know, I used to think my grandma was a magician. She'd walk into a kitchen disaster. Salty soup, tough meat, dry cake, and with a quiet smile and one simple, odd ingredient, she'd perform a miracle. After all these years, I've learned it wasn't magic, though. It was wisdom. A kind of kitchen alchemy passed down through generations. She knew secrets that we'd never find in any cookbook. So, pull up a chair. Let me tell you about 20 of her most oddly useful food hacks. Number 10 is something you couldn't have imagined. Add mayonnaise to scrambled eggs. Grandma looked at a jar of mayonnaise and saw more than a sandwich spread. She saw the key to truly fluffy scrambled eggs. Would you believe that? "Stop wrestling with rubbery eggs," she'd say, as she'd dollop a generous spoonful of mayonnaise right into the raw, beaten eggs. Why? Well, you're about to find out. See, the science is elegantly simple. The additional fat from the oil in the mayonnaise coats the proteins in the eggs, preventing them from binding together too tightly and too quickly when heat is applied. This results in a softer, more tender curd and a significantly creamier mouthfeel, which means this should instantly be your go-to move for weekend brunch glory. If you think this is impressive, wait till you see what she does with soy sauce in her chocolate dessert recipe. Yep, you heard just right. But before then, grease pans with sugar. One of Grandma's favorite tricks was somehow creating a hidden gem of texture where you'd least expect it, which brings us to how she dusted the cake pan. Not with flour, but with sugar, she'd say. For something sweet, use something sweet. And truth is, she was spot on. When you grease a pan with butter and then sprinkle it with sugar, the sugar partially dissolves into the fat. It's a built-in praline layer that adds both texture and a depth of flavor that flour simply cannot. While she was a wizard with sugar and butter, Grandma's true genius lay in her ability to see potential where most saw refuse, even in the murky liquid from a can of beans. And that brings us to use aquafaba as an egg white substitute. Nothing was ever thrown out in Grandma's kitchen. A chicken carcass became stock, stale bread became pudding, and the liquid from a can of chickpeas? In her world, that was liquid gold. I once saw her drain a can of chickpeas directly into her mixing bowl, not the sink. And the reason will drop your jaw. You see, aquafaba is the starchy water left over from cooking legumes. It can be whipped to soft or stiff peaks, making it a phenomenal plant-based substitute for egg whites in meringues and mousses, and even as a binder in vegan baking. For a stunning vegan chocolate mousse, simply drain the chickpea liquid from one can into a bowl. Add a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a tablespoon of sugar. Whip with an electric mixer for 5 to 10 minutes until it forms stiff, glossy peaks. Gently fold in melted, cooled chocolate and chill. You will be a believer. Her ability to find wonder in the mundane didn't stop there. Next up, use baking soda for crispy chicken skin. Grandma's roasted chicken was a masterpiece of texture. The meat was tender, but the skin was a revelation. A thin, shattering, salty glass that we'd fight over. She didn't achieve this with high heat alone. She had a tiny, powdery accomplice. She'd mix her salt and pepper with a mysterious white powder. That powder was nothing more than baking powder. While baking powder is a modern leavening agent, the understanding of using alkaline substances to alter food texture is ancient. Think of lutefisk or pretzels dipped in lye. Same logic, different ingredients. So, for one whole chicken, pat the skin completely dry. Mix 1 tablespoon of baking powder with 2 teaspoons of salt and your preferred seasonings. Rub this mixture very lightly over all the skin and finally, roast. The result will be the crispiest, most professional-looking chicken skin you've ever made at home. And now for that chocolate dessert recipe you've been waiting for. Add soy sauce to chocolate dessert. Grandma believed that the deepest flavors were built on contrast. A little salt made caramel sweeter. A bit of bitterness made coffee richer. And for chocolate, her secret weapon came from the other side of the world. Believe it or not, but a little bit of umami can make all the difference. Chocolate, especially dark chocolate, has its own complex flavor profile with bitter and fruity notes. The umami in the soy sauce interacts with these compounds, rounding out the bitterness and amplifying the cocoa's deep, roasty notes, resulting in a richer, more profound chocolate experience. And the best part? You get this without even a trace of soy flavor. The next time you make brownies, chocolate frosting, or even a mug of hot chocolate, add half a teaspoon of soy sauce. Stir it in with the other wet ingredients. You won't taste it. You'll simply wonder why your chocolate dessert has never tasted so intensely, wonderfully chocolatey before. And this still isn't the height of her ingenuity. Doubt that? Then wait till you see our 10th food hack. Before then, how about a little trick that lets you still bake without eggs? Create a natural egg substitute with flaxseed. When the chickens slowed their laying in the winter, it didn't mean the end of baking in Grandma's house. She'd simply turn to a tiny, unassuming seed to keep the cookie jar full. This mystery seed is none other than flaxseed. Have you heard of it? Flax seeds are rich in soluble fiber and mucilage. When ground and mixed with water, these components absorb the liquid and swell, creating a thick, viscous gel that mimics the binding and moisture-retaining properties of a real egg. To try it out, mix 1 tablespoon of finely ground flaxseed with 3 tablespoons of water. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it thickens and becomes gelatinous. Use it exactly as you would an egg in your baking. Fun fact, it's a boon for vegans and anyone with an egg allergy. This kind of resourcefulness was second nature to her, a principle she applied even to the most fundamental of baking ingredients, like butter. And that brings us to great frozen butter for flaky pastries. Grandma's biscuits and pie crusts were legendary for their feathery, pull-apart layers. Her secret weapon was far simpler and resided in the coldest part of her icebox. Sounds hard to believe, but it was just butter. Frozen butter. But the real secret here is in how she used the butter. When I was younger, I'd find her at the counter, running a frozen stick of butter steadily across a box grater, creating a delicate snowfall of golden shreds into the flour. That was Grandma's secret. The goal is to keep the fat solid until it hits the oven, where it melts, releasing steam and creating pockets that become flaky layers. And she achieved this by grating frozen butter. Yeah, her mastery over temperature was great, but she was also a master of time itself, the baking soda accelerant. Caramelized onions were a staple in her kitchen, their deep, sweet umami forming the base of soups and stews. But while most recipes demanded an hour of stirring, Grandma's were ready in a fraction of the time thanks to a tiny, powerful pinch of baking soda. Just a scant pinch, no larger than a ladybug. Remember the little hack for making chicken crispier with baking soda? Well, there's not much difference between that and this. A word of caution though, too much will make the onions taste soapy and cause them to break down into mush, so a tiny pinch is all you need. So instead of spending so much time trying to caramelize your onion, just sauté your sliced onions in butter or oil over medium heat. Once they begin to soften, add a pinch of baking soda. Stir continuously. You'll be amazed at how quickly they deepen in color and develop a rich, sweet flavor, ready in 15 to 20 minutes instead of 45 to 60. Use mayo for breading. In Grandma's kitchen, the egg wash was dethroned. For chicken, fish, or even cauliflower destined for the oven, she had a richer, more effective, and flavor-packed alternative. I remember staring at her in awe as she'd go past the bowl of beaten eggs entirely and pick up the jar of mayonnaise, spreading a thin, creamy layer over a chicken breast with a butter knife. Why? Well, you'll find out in about a minute. Let's talk science for a bit. Mayo is a superior binder for a few reasons. Its thick, viscous consistency means it doesn't run off the food, providing complete and even coverage. What does all this mean? It means whether you're baking, air frying, or pan frying, ditch the egg wash. Use a spatula or your hands to lightly coat your protein or vegetables in a thin layer of mayonnaise. Then press into your seasoned breadcrumbs or panko. The coating will adhere perfectly and bake up incredibly crisp and flavorful. She understood that contrast was the soul of flavor, a principle she applied not just to taste, but to temperature, using a simple cube of ice to solve a perennial grilling dilemma. Yeah, it's time for that mind-blowing 10th food hack. Add ice cube to burger patties. Grandma's burgers were the stuff of family legend, thick, charred on the outside, and impossibly juicy within. It always made Grandpa jealous. Her trick was chillingly simple: a clear cube of ice. It looked like madness then, probably still does now, but it tasted like genius. As the burger cooks on the outside, the ice cube placed in the center slowly melts. This process absorbs heat, preventing the very center of the patty from overcooking too quickly. The melting water then turns to steam, which bastes the meat from the inside out, ensuring it stays moist and tender. By the time the burger is cooked to a safe temperature, the ice has fully melted and evaporated, leaving behind only its gift of juiciness. So, get your patties, and right before it climbs the grill, place a small ice cube in the divot and gently fold the meat over to enclose it completely. Grill as you normally would. You'll be rewarded with a burger that is consistently pink and juicy, not gray and dry. This clever use of water to create steam was a testament to her understanding of kitchen physics, an understanding she also applied to her baking in a number of ways, but there's one in particular: her little vodka dough trick that really shocked all of us, but before then. The cold water bath. Grandma knew that a raw onion could be both a blessing and a curse. We all know this. While it provides necessary crunch and pungency, its aggressive, sulfurous bite could overpower a delicate salad. Her solution was as simple as it was effective: a good, long cold soak. For generations, cooks have sought ways to mellow the harshness of alliums. Soaking them in water or vinegar has always worked its magic. When you soak sliced or diced onions in cold water, these harsh compounds leach out, dramatically reducing the onion's bite and astringency. Taming harsh flavors was one of her specialties, but her true passion was in building them, layer by layer, often beginning with the very foundation of her spice cabinet. The spice toast. The first sound of many of Grandma's meals wasn't the sizzle of onions, but the gentle tinkle-tinkle of cumin seeds or peppercorns dancing in a dry, hot skillet. You see, she had this cooking hack: toasting her spices first before doing anything else. And oh boy, does it work wonders. Heat accelerates the release of essential oils trapped within spices. Gently toasting whole spices in a dry pan causes a Maillard reaction and other chemical changes that deepen their flavor profile, transforming them from simply aromatic to complex, nutty, and profoundly fragrant. Whether you're making a curry, a chili, or even just seasoning roasted vegetables, take an extra 2 minutes. Place your whole spices. We're talking cumin, coriander, fennel seeds, peppercorns, you name it, in a dry skillet over medium heat. Swirl them constantly for 1 to 2 minutes until they darken slightly and become incredibly fragrant. Let them cool, then grind them. The difference will be staggering. Use pickle juice in potato salad. Grandma's potato salad was never heavy or bland. It had a certain liveliness, a zesty kick that made you go back for spoonful after spoonful. The secret was lurking in a jar at the back of the fridge. After mixing the mayo and mustard into the warm potatoes, she'd never just add salt and pepper. She'd grab the jar of dill pickles, unscrew the lid, and pour a generous glug of the cloudy, briny liquid right into the bowl. Why? Well, for starters, it's a classic waste-not practice. Secondly, and most importantly, the leftover brine from pickles is packed with flavor: vinegar, salt, dill, garlic, and spices. You can't go throwing out a flavor profile like that, can you? Grandma's waste-not practice extended to pretty much everything, including the bottom of a cereal box. And with that, next up, used crushed cornflakes for a crunchy coating. Grandma was all about creating the crispiest coatings for chicken and fish, however possible. And sometimes this desire of hers led her to my cereals sitting on the top shelf. She'd pour cornflakes into a brown paper bag and with a rolling pin, crush them into a mix of fine crumbs and satisfying shards. Cornflakes are toasted and flaked corn, which gives them a uniquely light and shattering texture when crushed and recooked. So, for a superior crunchy coating, try this. Set up your standard breading station, flour, beaten egg, and crushed cornflakes. Coat your chicken tenders, fish fillets, or even onion rings, and bake or air fry until golden. The texture will be next level. And how about I let you in on the vodka dough secret? Get your recipe book out. This is one you don't want to miss. Use vodka in pie dough. Grandma's pie crust was a paradox. It was both incredibly tender and shatteringly flaky. She guarded its recipe fiercely, but I finally discovered her secret ingredient one Thanksgiving, hidden in a frosty bottle in the back of the pantry. For a second, I thought it was vinegar, until I realized it wasn't. It was vodka. How about a science lesson? Water activates glutenin and gliadin, the two proteins in wheat flour, causing them to bind and form tough gluten strands. Ethanol does not facilitate this binding. By replacing some of the water in your pie dough with vodka, you hydrate the flour enough to roll it out while minimizing gluten development. The result is a dough that is easy to work with and bakes up exceptionally tender and flaky. Use your favorite pie crust recipe, but when it calls for water, replace half of that amount with chilled vodka. Proceed as normal. You'll be amazed at how manageable the dough is and how spectacularly it bakes up. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're not done just yet, and wait till you see our big finish. Promise you, it's worth the wait. But before that, how about a hack to turn your mashed potatoes from a side dish to the main event? Add egg yolk to your mashed potatoes. Grandma's mashed potatoes always stole the show every Thanksgiving. They were impossibly smooth, rich, and velvety, with a depth of flavor that butter and cream alone could never achieve. You see, after mashing the steaming hot potatoes with plenty of butter and warm milk, she'd do one last thing. She'd take a single golden egg yolk and swiftly stir it into the fluffy white mountain. Egg yolks are emulsifiers thanks to their lecithin. Stirred into hot mashed potatoes, they help bind the fat and water in the potatoes into a smoother, more unified, and silkier emulsion. So, after you've mashed your potatoes with your usual ingredients, take the pot off the heat. Quickly stir in 1 or 2 raw egg yolks, mixing vigorously. The residual heat will gently cook the yolk, thickening the potatoes without curdling. Taste the difference. It's the difference between good mashed potatoes and an unforgettable one. The frozen ginger grate. Fresh ginger was a flavor powerhouse in her cooking, but its stringy, tough texture made it a nuisance to grate until Grandma let the freezer do the hard work. She'd keep a hand of ginger, knobby and strange, tucked away in a freezer bag. When she needed some, she'd take it out and without even peeling it, run it across the microplane. It fell in a soft, snowy pile with none of the usual fibrous mess. Freezing the ginger causes its cellular water to form ice crystals. When you grate the frozen root, these ice crystals help break apart the tough cell walls and fibers, resulting in a fine, fluffy, and effortless grate. Buy a large piece of ginger, place the whole unpeeled hand in a zip-top bag, and freeze. Whenever a recipe calls for grated ginger, pull it out and grate it frozen directly into your dish. Grandma had quite the palate, and sometimes it had her seeking out umami in the most unexpected places, like a bottle of fermented fish. Add fish sauce to soup. Grandma's onion soup was profound, with a savory depth that lingered on the palate. And it was all thanks to a secret, a hidden, funky, fishy secret. She always had fish sauce that she'd saved up for whenever the time was right. And it was always right when we craved onion soup. Fish sauce is fermented anchovies and salt, making it one of the most potent sources of natural glutamates on the planet. When added in small quantities to a dish like onion soup, chili, or even a beef stew, it dissolves completely and works in the background to intensify the meaty, savory notes without imparting a fishy flavor. Grandma was a master of stealthy flavor enhancement, a skill she used not only to deepen savory dishes, but what if your food needs saving? Well, next up, fix oversalted foods with potato. We've all been there, a slip of the wrist, and suddenly the soup is a salt lick. Most cooks would despair. Grandma would just smile and reach for the potato bin. It's all about osmosis, the movement of water across a membrane from an area of low solute concentration to an area of high solute concentration. The salty soup has a high concentration of salt. The raw potato has a low concentration. Water, and with it, some of the salt is drawn into the potato in an attempt to balance the two environments, thus reducing the overall saltiness of the soup. If you oversalt a soup, stew, or sauce, simply peel a large potato, cut it in half to increase its surface area, and simmer it in the pot for 15 to 20 minutes. Remove the now salty potato and taste your soup. You'll find the harsh saltiness has been tempered, saving your meal. And finally, our big finish, and quite possibly the most shocking food hack out there, the secret to a moister cake. Add zucchini to cakes. Grandma's chocolate cakes were famously dark, damp, and fudgy. They stayed that way for days. Her secret wasn't an extra stick of butter, it was a vegetable she grew in abundance in her summer garden. In the height of summer, when zucchinis threatened to take over the garden, she'd grate them into a mountain of green confetti. And guess where it all went into? Yep, her rich chocolate batter. And the reason for this makes so much sense. You'd probably even wonder why you never knew about it until now. You see, zucchini is over 95% water. As the cake bakes, the zucchini slowly releases moisture into the crumb, keeping it incredibly tender and preventing it from drying out. The strands of zucchini themselves virtually disappear during baking, leaving no discernible vegetable flavor, especially when paired with intense flavors like cocoa, cinnamon, or citrus. To spice up cake batter, add 1 to 2 cups of grated unpeeled zucchini to your favorite chocolate cake batter. You will be rewarded with a cake that is remarkably moist and has a wonderfully dense yet tender texture that stays fresh for days. Her most mind-blowing food hack. These 20 hacks are about observing, understanding, and respecting your ingredients. They are about knowing that the solution to a culinary problem is often not more, but smarter. It's seeing the potential in a can of bean juice, the power in a cube of ice, or the secret to crispness in a pot of alkaline powder. So, tell us, how many of these did you know about before now? And how many will you be open to trying out? Tell us what you think in the comments section. Until next time.